The secret network behind the British Empire's wealth. The shadow beneath the crown. For more than 2 centuries, the British Empire ruled over 1/4 of the earth. From the coasts of India, to the mountains of Africa, to the ports of Hong Kong, the sun never set on its dominion. But what if the true empire was never about land? What if the real power, the power that never faded, was built not with armies or cannons, but with contracts and gold and silence? Beneath the shining crown, beneath the flags and glory, there lay a hidden web, a secret network of bankers, merchants, and aristocrats. It did not just fund the empire, it was the empire. And even now, in our world of credit cards, offshore accounts, and digital currency, its shadow still lingers. This is the story of that invisible network, the true engine behind the British Empire's wealth. The origin of power, ledgers, and promises. London, 1694, a city of merchants, smoke, and secrets. The war with France had drained the kingdom's treasury. The crown was broke. And so, 12 wealthy men stepped forward, men not of noble blood, but of influence. They offered the king a simple deal. We will lend you the money you need, if you give us the right to issue it. Thus, the Bank of England was born. It was not a building. It was an idea, a machine that turned debt into dominion. From that moment, Britain's real empire began not on the battlefield, but on the balance sheet. For the first time in history, a nation discovered how to wage war with money it did not yet have. And those who controlled the money controlled the crown, the empire of numbers, where trade became control. The 18th century was not the age of kings. It was the age of accountants. In 1600, the East India Company had begun as a trading firm. But by the 1800s, it was an army with private soldiers, private ships, and private laws. Its directors sat not in palaces, but in boardrooms. And behind every shipment of tea, opium, or silk, lay the invisible power of credit. Money moved faster than ships. Debt became the leash that tied nations together. And at the center of it all stood London, the beating heart of the empire's invisible network. From its counting houses, fortunes were built and governments bought. Commerce, they called it. But in truth, it was conquest by calculation. The invisible web, families, fortunes, and shadows behind the throne stood families. The Barings, the Rothschilds, the Jardines. They financed kings and crushed rivals not through armies, but through interest rates. When Wellington needed funds for the war against Napoleon, the bankers provided it. When colonies needed railways and ships, they owned the companies that built them. This was not corruption, it was design. A private empire wrapped in the flag of Britain. It was said that the East India Company conquered India, but the Rothschilds owned it. And as London's merchants grew richer, Parliament became merely a stage. The actors changed, but the script was written in the language of debt. The empire's wealth did not flow from the mines or fields, but from the quiet turning of numbers in a banker's ledger. The dark engine, gold, opium, and blood. But every empire has a shadow, and this one was darker than most. The wealth of London's salons was paid for in human misery. Tea was financed by opium. Cotton was spun by slaves. Silver flowed from the veins of China into the vaults of England. The British Empire perfected the art of civilized plunder. When morality threatened profit, the laws were rewritten. When nations resisted, wars followed always for trade, never for greed. Yet in the quiet moments of history, the truth bleeds through. Every coin stamped with the king's face carried the echo of a distant cry. Empires rise on profit, but they endure on forgetting. The city within the city, the heart of the empire. In the heart of London lies a secret kingdom, 1 square mile, known as the City of London Corporation. It has its own flag, its own police, its own laws. Even the Queen herself must ask permission to enter. Inside, fortunes are born and buried before the public ever notices. This is not a government. It is a network, the living brain of the old empire, still pulsing in the shadows. Every major transaction, every offshore route, every quiet deal from Hong Kong to Bermuda eventually passes through this single square mile. A state within a state, a crown behind the crown. And like all great powers, it survives because most people never see it. The legacy. The empire without flags. When the colonies declared independence, the empire simply changed form. Its armies became corporations. Its colonies became markets. And its rulers became investors. From the ashes of empire rose a new order, the offshore empire. Jersey, Bermuda, the Cayman Islands, each a quiet piece of the old machine, still moving money beyond borders. It was a brilliant illusion empire without territory, power without accountability. And while nations spoke of democracy and freedom, their wealth flowed through the same narrow channels built centuries ago. The names changed, the tools evolved, but the hierarchy remained. The empire simply went digital. Epilogue. The empire that never died empires. They say fall, but what if they don't? What if they adapt, slipping from land to ledgers, from soldiers to servers? The British Empire may have lost its colonies, but it kept its crown, not of gold, but of credit. The invisible hand that built its wealth still shapes our world today in the markets we trade, the debts we owe, and the systems we cannot see. Perhaps the truest empire is not the one that conquers land, but the one that conquers belief. Look around you. The flags have changed, but the network remains. This was the Empire of Finance. Subscribe and enter the next chapter of money, power, and hidden history.